Welcome back to the Good Performance Podcast. Otto Zakata joined by Brandon Jetter and Troy Shallow. We have an exciting podcast episode for you today, or radio show. I think this should be a radio show. And we're going to cover... Yeah, I like radio shows better.
I was looking in Riverside, so we can go live, and you can have people call in.
Call-ins?
Yes, you can do call-ins, apparently. I haven't figured out exactly how, but
call-ins.
It's listed as a function.
Call in. Like Scotty this morning, it took him... he had 10 miles left to get to Logan Airport. It took him 75 minutes. That's what it was. So he could have called in on his long trip into Boston. 75 minutes to go 10 miles.
Should we have the schedule as like a morning radio show and just start stealing? Yeah. Eventually try to get an actual radio station? That'd be pretty funny.
Pretty good.
We'd have to cover more like Gen News and stuff. Like today.
Do people listen to the radio still?
Old people.
I do.
Be shock jock.
But they got rid of your favorite show, Coach.
They didn't get rid of it. They moved it to a different station. But I don't listen to that. So because I couldn't figure it out. I don't know.
Can't find the station.
It's like shares. It shares an FM radio station with another station, and my truck with crank manual windows doesn't have the option to flip between the two like separate stations. So I'm just stuck with like the primary one. It's tough. Anyway, so we're gonna start out the podcast with something that seems to be, we would think is common sense, but clearly is not common sense, and you see it in the news all the time. We'll let Troy go off on this, but it's really with today's day and age of posting your whereabouts and everything you do on the internet and social media and communicating through the internet. Should be common sense. Do not post yourself doing illegal things, and do not comment about you doing illegal things. Yeah, that should be pretty self-explanatory, but if you're a young athlete trying to, accomplish the dream, play college sports, or even just get a job somewhere, an exclusive job, maybe it requires security clearance or something, anything you put on the internet exists forever. So, maybe refrain from posting illegal activities on the internet. It's just an idea. We're just here to give advice, Coach, if you want to.
It seems like common sense, but for whatever reason, there was an instance where someone got rage baited and decided to respond to that rage bait by talking about gambling on a game they are going to play in Instagram comments. That is one of the stupidest things I've seen someone do. Like, that is illegal because you're underage. You cannot legally allowed to gamble, and you're talking about gambling on a game you're playing in. If you're doing that, like, what is going through your head? Like, this is part of why I'm not going to get into that whole thing of gambling and all that, but social media, like, if you're a young athlete, okay, it's sure you want to make a friendly bet with your friend and be like, oh, like blah 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 about something. Sure, okay. Do not go posting about it on social media where anyone can see it and then be like, we're gonna up the bet because we're gonna kick your ass. Like, are you dumb? Like, are you like, that blows my mind. Like, that is a dumb thing to do. You may not be dumb, but that is a very dumb thing to do. So that goes back to having common sense. And like Coach said, anybody can see it. If you post something online nowadays, anybody can see it. If your account is private, guess what? They can still, if you post on a public page, they can still see it came from you. Anybody can see it. Anybody, if you're trying to get recruited to a college and they search your name or they go somewhere and they can see what you post. They can see what you do. Like, that is idiotic. Like, have some understanding, have some common sense of what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish in your life. Like that.
Yeah. I remember we had a meeting in college at Syracuse about, I think they put up some fake, or they were real, I don't remember, like retweets or posts from guys on the team that were pretty hilarious. Definitely, they would use them as like examples of what not to do because like how it can ruin your career and, image, especially from an athlete. If you're trying to, if your gifts are athletic and your sports are kind of your ticket to a good education and a good career and networking, well, that's personal branding, and your reputation as an athlete is quite important, right? Otherwise, you're kind of you're kind of missing the whole point of playing sports, right? It's to connect with people, it's to share perspective, it's to be that athlete in your formative young years to help open up other doors for you. But if you're ruining it with doing dumb shit on the internet, then it's kind of defeating the purpose of being an athlete in the first place. Or at least maybe that's not what you're being an athlete for. But I think that you maybe want to sit and take some time and think about, like, what's the whole goal? Because sports end. Sports end. And unless you want to be, training younger athletes in basements and garages like us, which is fine, but there's only so much room for us. You probably want to reevaluate why you're doing it, right? So, yeah, like Coach said, don't try to make smarter decisions. But I can do. I remember a talk that was given to my brother and I was when you're younger, you're gonna have these ideas, and you might think that they're like these great ideas. They might really seem like good ideas or funny ideas, but they're not. And just recognize that you're at that age, the late high school to early college, of the bad ideas. Technically, I guess it's like middle school to early high school. But when you're in that age, you're of the age of bad ideas. Most of your ideas are bad. Even though you think they're good, even though you find things to justify that they're good ideas, they are bad ideas, and you just have to accept that they're probably bad ideas. So the fewer of those you act upon, the better you'll be off.
You can also just not post. People don't realize that. You can just not post. You can just not say anything. That's always an option. I don't know. In the modern era, I'm echoing a little bit. I don't know what that is.
I think through Troy's. Are you echoing through Troy's computer speakers?
No, I think you're just echoing because you're in a garage.
Am I?
I don't know. You're good. Keep going. What were you going to say?
Yeah, obviously in like the past few years, it's become a little bit more obvious because social media has such proliferation of it. I remember, I feel like I told Otto this story maybe when I was talking about junior college. So I was in junior college in 2016, 17. So like, I don't know, like people were less active on social media. I know because I have like no videos of me training. I was trying to explain something to someone and I had none of them, but I remember I had this like assistant coach, and I don't want to like deep dive into him too much because I don't want to upset in case it comes back around.
Avoid names or anything.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
You can
name
change
names.
the stories. You can change the story,
but Buddy had an interesting past. So let's say that they definitely didn't do a background check on him, and like his Instagram, dude, like this is a dude, he's a coach. He's technically employed by the state. He's got pictures, he's got body armor on, he's got like assault rifles, like in the state of California, like, but he had an interesting past. And like, I remember I was like, yeah, well, that's we'll see what happens to him. And he was a great guy, dude. I loved him. Like, he was a great coach, like, not gonna lie. But I remember like literally like 3 months ago, I was with one of my friends from back home, and I was like, dude, I wonder whatever happened to that coach I had. And so I like searched up his name, and it was like first article, it's like 3 dogs killed in Sacramento SWAT raid, like 27 ghost guns seized. And I don't know, obviously that's not gonna happen to most people that post on social media, but I don't know, it's just a tangent that reminded me. He was like the first guy I saw that like I knew personally. Like, you always heard about athletes had these, old tweets or whatever, but he was like the first dude where I was like, yeah, sometimes like what you post can be indicative of your character, and I don't know. You just gotta be aware of what you throw out there.
Yeah, well said. So if you're younger and you're building, you're posting to keep updates on football or schools or whatever sport you play or lifts, just keep it with clean stuff, right? Act like you would publicly on the field, at your school, in front of your parents. Maybe you have horrible behavior and you act like a fool everywhere, in which case your issue is to just stop acting like such a fool. A little bit of foolishness is okay. We encourage being goofy and being foolish, but keep in mind that you can make people smile. There's a lot of sad in the world. You can make people smile. That's okay. But within reason and not at the expense of your own kind of well-being and future. I feel like I hear that so much, and that's such an old coach thing. That's when we're getting
it's such an old head thing to say, but
yeah, when we're getting old, we've truly become unk when you're saying, everything you post on social media, that they can track that stuff,
So, I understand.
coach, anything you say. I knew a player once who posted this thing on Insta chat, Snapgram, and he was with strippers and drugs, and he lost everything. He lost his spot. He lost his endorsements. That could be you.
I understand the sentiment, but I will make the point that social media has evolved so much
Yes,
since
yeah.
we've been in high school that it's like actually now is more important to be careful of what you post than ever before. Because
Yeah.
when we were in high school, like Snapchat just came out when we were in high school. Now there's Snapchat AI that can make people into different people and make people like do crazy things on Snapchat AI.
What kind of crazy things do you have them do, Coach?
He's got to watch what he says. No, that's a good point, though. I mean, that's kind of what I tried to say with my story. I kind of got lost in the weeds of it, but like in graduating, me and Otto graduated high school in 2015. Troy, I think it was 2016. Like it existed, but it didn't really pick up. I feel like until like 17, 18 now, and then obviously like as you see now, it's become more of like, it's almost in like some ways for like a lot of sports recruiting. It's almost like more of like a LinkedIn platform, right? You see all the accounts now. It's like class of 26 here, here's my 40 GPA, etc. Like it's so front and center now, whereas it was like secondary to like
when we
real
were in high
life.
school, Instagram was you could make one picture squared post. That was it. You
Right.
couldn't post videos, you couldn't post reels, you couldn't post swipe slideshows. Like that was all it was.
Well, think about it this way. I mean, like you were saying about the transition of it, it's essentially replaced what I would say television or radio was, because if you think about, it's an attention marketplace. So everybody is competing for the eyeballs and attention of people looking at their phones all the time. Like no matter who says they're not on their phone that much, it doesn't matter because there's so many people like just driving down the street. I see an older couple just heads down on the corner, just staring at their phones. Like these people are probably 50 or 60. Everybody looks at it now. It's the new television. People sit down and maybe they watch their shows on their streaming service, but really that short form video and social media has taken place of what television was back in the day when it was.
Well, and we were just talking the other day too about cartoons. Like kids go to YouTube to watch their cartoon shows now.
Yeah.
Like
so
they don't watch Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. Like
yeah. So what I was going to say is if that's taken the place of television, then it's become a much more legit platform and it's much more professional. So whereas on television, yeah, the goofy commercial and the goofy show, like that's kind of, rated R, TVMA or whatever it was.
Right.
But social media has now taken that place. So if you're posting on that, you have somewhat of a channel, even though it's not
Unregulated.
Yeah, it's an unregulated
Initially,
channel.
yeah.
So then it's that much more important that it falls on the individual to like have discipline or discretion when they post, because that's now like it's ingrained in society and it's only becoming more ingrained in society. So it's that much more important to have that discretion when you're posting. A great
Not just
rule of thumb.
posting.
Well, posting, commenting,
Liking,
interacting.
too.
Yeah,
I've literally
everything...
I've had kids I coach like send a meme and be like, "Coach, why did you like this?" I'm like, "Oh,
Oh, yeah, I don't like anything. I
Well,
like things.
I try to
it
get my
doesn't-
algo,
Yeah, I like things when they if they're sent to me. Like you can like it in the chat, but I don't like things. It's none of anyone's business, right? So
Fair.
keep your stuff as private as you can, and please express discretion when posting, commenting, and liking, because everything can be seen by everyone. Like you are on TV right now. Everybody's TV is their phone, and every time you go and interact on a public forum, social media, comment, post, Snapchat, group messages, you name it, you're on TV. You're on TV for the whole world to watch. And maybe you don't think there's that many people watching it, but there only needs to be one or two of the right or wrong people watching it for it to be catastrophic. Luckily, people's attention spans are short. So if you slip up and you make a mistake, then people will forget and it's not a big deal. But try to avoid catastrophe, please. Like you are on TV. You're on television. Like back in the day, you're on the news. Oh my God, little Jimmy's on the news. Okay, you're Jimmy. you're on the news. You're on TV for everybody to see. So behave accordingly, I guess. Yeah, that's a good way to start, Coach. I think we probably don't reiterate enough lessons that we would think that would be common sense, but maybe it's not. Yeah, be good kids. Jeez.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into maybe some training or sports talk. I don't know. Do we want to go over you got any highlights maybe for the GPC guys or anything that we want to touch on training related? I guess we should have a, audience write in or call in. That would be good because then we can
Let me ask you guys, as a gym that primarily caters to football players, what is fall looking like? And actually, how many athletes do you have that aren't in football? How many athletes do you have coming in right now or in general that are in a sport other than
We
that?
have 13 wrestlers right now.
Yeah, so we've transitioned to wrestling, and then we have our football players come in like once or twice a week for in-season maintenance lifts where we do a lot of PT stuff, soft tissue mobility work. They get under some weight because, as you know, Coach Troy and myself, big advocates for lifting in season. You have to run when you're tired and you have to lift in season. Right, Coach?
You know what's interesting about you have to run when you're tired is the people commenting, and have a post going up scheduled for Sunday about this. So like I made the post just simply talking about you have to sprint when you're tired, you have to sprint when you're tired. And it's getting liked by players in the NFL and former NFL players and football players, college, whatever, right? People who sprint when they're tired for a living, basically. And you got people in the comments being like, it's not sprinting when you're tired is not actually sprinting. It's not you're actually running sub maximally, and that's not what the science says because so I just made a post about that's going up Sunday, but I just think that's interesting and that the people who sprint when they are tired for a living are the ones that are like, yeah, you have to sprint when you're tired. But the people who don't, like coaches or per se, are in there with their science-based, well, actually, it's not actually beneficial to sprint when you're tired. I'm like, it's just interesting how that works.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that a lot, even just with our training and kind of how we coach is typically, current, former, high-level athletes. We'll talk to them about training or performance or how we work out, and we've gotten overwhelming positive reviews. Like, oh, it's awesome what you guys are doing. I wish something like that existed when I was younger. That's really cool. Where we get people who are maybe not as, they don't buy in or they don't get the excitement, it's typically people with like a very small exposure to high-level sports. It might just be local youth sports or, stops at when they competed in high school, and then they have a perception about sports based on maybe they have a friend who's a trainer for this pro team, or they've met a professional player, or they're friends with someone who's dating a professional player, and that's their connection to it, but not being in it, not actually having done it, not living the life. And that's where we see people kind of, well, why are you doing that? Why questioning that? Because I guess there's a lot of background knowledge, and maybe that falls on us to do a better job of kind of educating the why and trying to show people a snapshot into it. But we get that same thing is, oh yeah, you get a guy who's been a pro for 10 years. That's awesome training. I wish something like that was around when I was there. And then you have someone who maybe, played freshman, sophomore year of high school. And it's like, well, why are you doing this? Well, I heard this guy talking about this topic, and I think that maybe this is more optimal. Are you ever worried about this? It's like, why are all the questions coming from the bums? Yeah. Why do the bums have the questions, like the critical, like, this is where you want to apply your critical thinking, you bums? Like, get out of here. I like the critical questions from, a Brandon, or if we're talking to Karsten, or if we're talking to Dave even, who's been an MMA guy forever, right? Guys that have been in the arena for a very long period of time that understand what they're doing. Those questions are, oh, wow, that's a really good question. I hadn't thought of that. But it's always the hyperly critical, like analyzing questions where it's like, I'm very skeptical of what you're doing. Why are you doing this? Why is it coming from the bums?
The sprinting one's crazy because a guy
back to our last thing on the rant. Back to the last podcast or 2 podcasts ago. Can you do 100 push-ups? Go do your push-ups. Go do your push-ups, little Jimmy. Okay.
It's
That's enough.
the sprinting one's crazy because the guys are like, I've read the comments, Troy, and they're like, would you lift sub maximally? And it's like, what do you think you do for like 98% of lifting?
All the
You know
time.
what I mean? Like constantly. And how do you build up your capacity to sprint maximally by sprinting sub maximally? Like I don't know. That one was bizarre, but
Or they're just rage baiting
science-based
us and it's
lifting.
working. Or they're
Dude,
just
it's-
rage
yeah.
baiting and it's
Dude, it's a
working so
science-based
well.
lifting community, bro. It's not rage bait. Oh, it's genuine.
Yeah, like doing gassers on Thursday when you have a game on Friday. Yeah, that's probably not smart. But like you're training in the summer, like you're fucking running 110s. Like, and guess what? You have to fucking run like you have to sprint 100 yards to build up your conditioning and capacity for when the season comes along and it's week fucking 4 and you're tired and it's the fourth quarter and you have to fucking chase someone down. Like that
Also
you're not
about
going to
building a
get there by
culture,
doing
right?
10-yard sprints all summer. Like,
Yeah. Real.
so yeah, that's where the science-based community is wrong. Like just flat out wrong.
Well, I'm triggered by science-based coaches and lifting, the whole phrase of science-based.
You should
in
see there's a
sports-
clip.
in like sports performance and coaching, that whole concept of science-based it's like why tag that brand on yourself? It's like a tag that almost really shouldn't exist, frankly. Like you shouldn't have to tag yourself or acknowledge or identify yourself as a science-based coach, because that in and of itself is a bit of that's like saying I'm a non-AI generated human. Like that's what that like that's like
Understand.
it's silly.
Well, you can, like you've said before, Otto, you can find science and studies to back any of your points nowadays. So would everyone then be a science-based lift? Like, what does that even mean? Like,
Well, no, the issue is that the scientific method, I'm not as well versed as other people are. The scientific method is to figure things out, is to discover things, right? It's to conduct experiments and figure things out. But by saying you're a science-based lifter, I guess you're almost, or a science-based coach, you're almost saying that the people who are coaching push-ups, say your program was air squats, squat jumps, and push-ups every single day and hill sprints. Maybe that's your program. By saying that, and it's like, oh, well, it worked for me back in the day, and saying, oh, well, that's not based in science. Well, actually, it is, right? It absolutely is science-based program. Is it the most optimal when every coach is trying to chase the most optimal way of programming? No, but I don't care for those arguments about what's best, right? What works? What's simple? What works? What can you do over and over again? Great. But like if you're moving, it's science-based. If you're going, like, I don't want to go. This is a huge wormhole, and I could really, you could really get me derailed about like thinking of discussing this. But keep it out of sports performance training, because at the end of the day, you could, and we've said this before, you could have all of the force plates and metrics about your training, and you're competing against other athletes. We've said this multiple times. You could have all your force metrics and increase your RSI by 12%, and all of your reactive strength, and my speed strength on the VBT is increased by, 30%. So I'm a way better athlete. Well, guess what, dude? Chuck from the middle of nowhere is pulling up with a cowboy collar and he's going to run through your face. Or you line up for the 100-meter start and friggin' Scoot, who has just been running friggin' hills like hand-timed in dirt, is going to put 2 seconds on you in the 100-meter. Like, it's real.
Yeah,
so don't come at me with all your hyper-analyzed things. Like, it makes sense if you're getting paid millions of dollars and you're performing at a super high level, and that those improvements are, like, people don't realize that, say you have an athlete, like we use Coolest Sports and Christian McCaffrey. Great. Awesome. That's one. His whole performance and training creates an industry in and of itself. That's why those small things matter. When you have an athlete, like when you have a coach like Randy Huntington and Su Ming Chan, the training itself that they're doing creates an entire industry and field because of how good that athlete is. That athlete is not at that level because of all that. Like, it is because of the training and the dedication, but like the minute differences that they're measuring, they're trying to get, 1 to 0.5% better in the world's top most elite level competition and performance. So it makes sense that you're trying to track as many different things as possible, but those differences matter when there is an entire industry. There's a lot of people that make a living off of those small little performances. When you're in high school and college and you're just trying to get on the field, or you're just trying to break friggin' 10.8 in the 100-meter, or you're just trying to jump 33 inches, dude, no. You are wasting your time. You're getting lost in the web of complexity. You are absolutely foolish. Like, it is a waste of time, and all of the people that are preaching, all the coaches that are preaching that you need to be focused on these hyper analytical factors are drinking too much of their own Kool-Aid and wasting your goddamn time is what they're doing, because it doesn't matter.
You guys should watch the reel.
Scoot don't want to train with them.
Watch the reel that I sent you guys. It's like some dude goes up to Sam Sulek and he's like, "You would be bigger if you didn't train 3x12." And he looks at him and he's like, "I'd be bigger if I trained like you." And the guy's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I guess I'll never know." Maybe I'll edit it after the fact.
I've been seeing a lot of like new accounts of people doing just like really small guys doing like ridiculous stuff in the gym, like attaching like things around their arm to do lateral raises, but then holding a handle that's not attached to anything, and they're not big, and they're like, "This is the optimal way to do cable lateral raise."
That
and
is
they're
probably trolling. That's
no,
but
no, I don't know if
it's
they
real.
are.
It's
like,
real.
It's real. Like,
that's a rant that I could go on. There's like, dude, there's this. The social media thing has like destroyed
you guys
brains.
are falling for extremely high level trolls.
No, I don't think I've ranted on this podcast yet, dude. I've heard like the social media thing has like fried people's brains. First of all, like you can tell the difference. Like everyone, like when they lift, like everyone loves to like get jacked. Like when you're, a teenager and you first get into lifting, like everyone loves to get huge, but you can like absolutely tell the difference. And there's nothing wrong with either one per se, but you can tell the difference of someone who lifts because they like, I don't know, because of like insecurities or they saw it on social media versus like someone who lifts because they, they came from a sporting background and they wanted to get better at their sport. And like, maybe they ended up going either direction. Like there's nothing wrong with either. But dude, you see these kids, they do the science-based lifting. I go on my fucking TikTok and there's like kids that they're like 160 pounds or, 16, 17 years old. And they're like, "Here's my peptide stack." It's like, what do you need peptides for? You're 17 years old. That's the best PED on the planet. Like when you're 17, you can train like that is the best PED on the planet, is being a teenager. And they're like, "Here's my peptide stack. Here's my, I don't do any high volume. I do, like Troy saying, they're doing the lateral raises with a cup. I do 2x6. I only do 2x6 on any movements because of fatigue."
I do the Mike Mentzer method.
Dude, it's ridiculous. It's like, I mean, if you want a template, dude, hop on 5x5. Do West Side, what was it, like West Side, like barbell for skinny bastards. Do you remember that? Like there's like there is good stuff out there that's been out there for like, both those programs are like over 30 years old now probably. But like, I blame social media, honestly, dude, that you got kids on peptides doing the cuffing freaking lateral raises.
I'll send you the video, Otto. You don't believe me? Like you'll look at it and be like,
okay.
It's real. Like, it's everywhere, Otto. It's genuinely everywhere. And watching the reel that I sent when we hop off, like that's a prime example.
Stuff to me and then text me that you sent me something, because otherwise I won't. I'm not going to look at it, or I'll look at it a month later. Well, I don't know. That goes back to, all right, so if social media is television and everybody has their own TV channel, like how often do, you run into, how many times have you gone to somebody's place and they watch this show and you watch that show for 5 minutes and you're just like, this is what you watch? How can you watch this, right? Where you don't understand why they find this entertaining or why they get value out of it, or the same, we had a guy in the gym. He's very, he grew up and is super successfully has a big boy job now. But I remember he told us some information about, what was it? Gary Brecka or something, like some type of B vitamin or something.
Vitamin
and he came
B.
in. Yeah, whatever. He told us some conspiracy or like deep dive or whatever. Yeah, Brandon, you can look it up. You might know about it. But
yeah, no worries.
I don't know. I remember time goes by and it was just like complete BS, because what happens is you get people consuming all this content, and then the name of the game isn't really, you're not spending the time to look into the credibility, correctness, or the validity of any claims you see. Like, no one spends the time to double check that stuff. So then the name of the game then becomes the appearance of knowledge or the appearance of competency, and that's how people kind of, go through and sift through their information, which then leads to a lot of misinformation, because a lot of people's, perception of what's credible or what's not is very superficial and not accurate. Like, that's not what makes good like, they're looking at, well, this guy he looks big, like that seems like good information, or he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, or the editing on this podcast is really
Right.
good, like this must be legit, there must be money behind it. But it's not that expensive to have a really high quality podcast set up. It's not that expensive to do all of these things, and you could see arguably more success spending time and resources on that aspect of getting your TV channel to grow, instead of just spouting, the best information you can, and also being able to redact that information. I think that's the big one, is people will say something, it'll get traction, it'll blow up. That's positive reinforcement. Like, oh, it must be right. Like, yeah, good. I'm going to double down on this. Whereas, well, if you're going to be a TV channel, at least good channels, right? YouTube, the way YouTubers used to be to go get big followings. I haven't been on YouTube in a while, but it would be people that tried to spread the best information they could. And then if they were mistaken or something new came up, they would share that and say, hey, listen, I said this previously. I changed my views on this. Like, this is the whole goal, is to provide you with the best information. But that's not really what happens. People are just hammering down views. It's 3 seconds to 10 seconds. I just need to look like I know what I'm talking about. That's all that matters. And then you get all the people who don't know any better that are digesting that information, because we get it all the time. Like, hey, man, we'll ask a question, and Troy and I will double take at an athlete and be like, you got that from TikTok, didn't you? Because, like, that just doesn't sound like a question
Right.
that you would form yourself, and it sounds like such a silly, uninformed question that it didn't come from you. And I think that's what we see a lot of. So to tie it all together, be smart about what you do on social media, and be critical when you're consuming content. Don't just take people's word for it. Like, I actually enjoy when we have athletes ask us questions as to why we're doing it. Granted, sometimes I take
Right.
up too much time in our sessions, and Troy's got to be like, all right, Otto, that's enough. But I like it when people ask the why, because I can sit there for 45 minutes and explain, well, based on this, we're doing this because it seems to have the highest probability of the outcome we want, or a beneficial outcome, right? It's not perfect, but training is not perfect. Hence why you can't apply science. There's too many variables to control for. Like, it's silly. And people just they're not honest with themselves or their coach or their training. And you could try to draw, correlations that just aren't there, because you're trying to look for science, like, sorry, dude, like, you flunked chemistry. Get scientific guy out of your bio. Like, you're in this field because, like, if you wanted to be a scientist, weird field to go into. And the guys that are in it that are actually very high level in science, they're not gabbing on social media with like a high profile podcast. They're actually like doing the shit, like, in high level labs. I don't even know where this is. I don't even know where it is, but that's where they would be. They wouldn't be spouting. They're not trying to sell you their science-based lifter PDF on Instagram. Like, if someone's trying to do that, they're probably not the scientists in the athletic performance community that you ought to be listening to, because those scientists would be smart enough to not be in front of all of the trolls and incels on social media, and are actually trying to, like, push the boundaries. Hence, like what I was saying with Randy Huntington's training and other high profile athletes training, though that level of training has a whole industry behind it, because those are the guys who actually are doing the big time shit, the shit that matters. Those
Right.
tiny, minute percentage points actually matter. But, Joe Schmo, who went to whatever college with his degree and his science-based techniques that are so groundbreaking, just, like, tell him to hit the road.
And the science changes, right? Like, I remember I
Always.
always use this example. I remember, at least for me, like in high school, we never did any sort of calf training. Even initially in college, it was kind of seen like, oh, you're isolating the calf for athletic performance. Like you're not a bodybuilder. And like now we see tons of calf ISOs. You talk about Huntington. Huntington obviously emphasized training the soleus. Like we see the science change in live time. So I don't know, the idea that it's superior to what you can. I mean, obviously the science matters a little bit, but I don't know. Consider myself an anecdotal expert. Like usually, you can find it out through just doing it yourself, and then maybe the science comes out, or maybe it already exists to back it up. But
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's more trends than science because everything is
True,
like
that is also true. Yeah.
you can find evidence, like Troy said earlier, you can find evidence to support whatever you want. Science, quote unquote, scientific evidence. But I think more so what you see with at least sports performance, like training athletes, you see trends and waves
Right.
of things that probably previously existed. Like the ATG guy, the knees over toes guy, right? Like took a lot of stuff from Charles Poliquin. I think early on he did say that. He was very like open with where he took
Yeah.
it. But then, I remember Troy and I looked into old Chuck P's stuff and like, yeah, he had some philosophies and ideas that were really good, but then we don't have to get into it here, but like he had some ideas that were just absolutely batshit out of left field that like were not supported by any type of evidence. But you get people that, they'll get one thing right and then they'll think that that translates to everything else, and it does not. So I don't know where I was going with that. I would like to change the topic a little bit because I'm going to go on a rant. We'll have to, between now and our next podcast, or maybe a few podcasts, we'll have to consult some actual scientists and see what their takes are. 'Cause none of us are. No. I don't want to go back to that.
That's what it was.
Yeah, our listener knows who they are if he listens, and he knows that he was wrong, but he did admit to it. Yeah, that was silly. I don't know, be critical. Just try and figure out the stuff of, I don't know, it's a slippery slope because you could even see guys that are professionals and they do, because, right, that's your Troy's nemesis, Joel Seedman. He has, professional athletes
I'm blocked.
Beautiful, man.
I'm blocked by Joel
You'll have to make a
Seedman.
burner account. You'll have to make a burner account that's like Joel Enthusiast or something, and just be like a hype man so you can see his new stuff. But what I was gonna say was there are a bunch of guys that get really high
Right.
profile athletes training and doing, novel exercises for views and
Joel
stuff
Seedman.
for their TV channel. And that it's tough to say just go by what the best guys do. And it's like, well, no, you should probably try to find people who are the most similar to you and your development and follow things that they did. I guess that would be better advice. I remember I would always look for athletes who had my same build and my same kind of rough numbers and try to find all the details. Well, they ran, this 40 when they were in high school, or this 40 in college, they weighed about this much, and try to find similarities specific to me, right? What athletes, even when I was talking to you about this, Brandon, for bobsled, when trying to learn how to push, which I still have a ways to go, but rather than try and figure out, the status quo, like this is how you push, how they teach everybody, I tried to look at the really good pushers who were similar to me in size and stature and like overall metrics, and tried to copy what they were doing. Because if I tried to push like, Chris Horn, yeah, that's a great example. If I try to push like Chris,
Which I tried to do for a year and it didn't work. I'm not 6'5", 6'4", and
can't imagine why. Yeah, but if you try to copy and mimic athletes that are like not like you, like if we have a little, a suburban slot receiver trying to copy, DK Metcalf's
Calvin
training,
Johnson.
like, dude, yeah, like you're not Megatron, dude. It's like, sorry, like let's be a little bit more realistic and let's try and bring it on a smaller scale. And if you're actually trying to do this, like find people and athletes, things that work for athletes that are most similar to you. Don't try to look at guys who are complete different athletes than you that thrived under this specific training program. If they didn't have the same deficiencies that you had, they weren't working on the same things that you need to work at, and maybe they were just all around way better athletes or better players, so they didn't need to invest as much time in a certain attribute that you might need to. So I guess that would be the advice rather than just take like, oh, this is what the pros do. This is what this coach says. Like, look at athletes similar to you and see where they had success and pick their brains. That's what we do a lot. We try to draw like similarities between athletes all the time, and it's worked pretty well. Like if you say, you know, our big guys that have similar body types, we'll kind of group those. Like as we've trained through a bunch of athletes now, we start to see patterns and there are different types of guys. And there's probably more than what traditional training would have you believe. Like it's more than what the 3 body types, endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph, right? Like it's not that, but you see patterns in terms of what athletes are good at, what they need to work on. And it usually, not always, but usually if it works, the more similar an athlete is, the same style of training will work to have them progress. And it's the same thing kind of with personalities too. Like some athletes like a certain type of coaching, and usually athletes with similar personalities like a similar type of coaching. And I guess that's just kind of a rep thing where you start to identify that because, you know, we go through it all the time. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Coach, because you probably do. Or you have something else. You look like you had something else that you were about to bring up.
No, some guy's trying to rage bait me in Instagram comments right now, and
Troy's saying good
hear it.
examples of the reels. I hope he sent those to Otto. Like it's the one.
did.
The
I
one
sent
by
them to
6
Otto,
is
too.
like the in vogue thing
Okay.
for the kids that have been
What's
radicalized.
Coach, what's the rage bait?
some guy, like, I don't okay.
Just give us the rage bait and then do your analysis. Wait, I just want to hear. No, just as similar as
guy
possible.
for 10 seconds.
Comments, let's work on stability exercises exclusively and never progress to functional movement. Laughing face, laughing face, laughing face. I said, what?
In context to what? Is that the
Yeah,
pistol
what is this
squad, I
video
would
of?
guess?
No, it's just a video of people training, like so many people training. Like it's just a video of clips of people training.
Double mount squat. Nice.
Split squat, reverse lunge, single leg reverse hyper,
Yep. Pause.
3 position pause squat, single arm row.
Sick. Nice way to throw it in there. 200 humble
Yeah, a little flat.
250 pounds single.
RDL, broad jump, sprints.
For those of you who aren't watching and just listening, Coach was rowing 250 pounds single arm dumbbell row. So
But like
get
people
good.
doing the combine drills, overhead throws, like literally like people
And
training and I'm talking and I'm
can you
talking
read
over
the
it.
can you read the comment verbatim? What
That
is the
he
rage
says,
bait? Yeah, what's the rage
let's
bait
work on
comment?
stability exercises exclusively and never progress to functional movement. I said,
Okay, so
I said, what?
I have a but yeah, that's a great response. But how about this? This guy visualizes. This is all just silly training. What you really need is to hold hollow holds, planks. Could you imagine an Instagram page or a TV channel that's just all like isometric stability exexercises?
Well, there's
You know
plenty.
how boring that is to
There's
watch?
plenty.
Are there?
You got people running and jumping like they squat, but you don't see that. ... All duck foot because that's what you're programming.
Duck
All
I
right.
foot?
said, thank you. Coming
So-
from the guy that doesn't run or squat. Keep at it.
The duck
GOATA
foot.
Stan.
All right,
I was
so
like,
here-
GOATA,
here's-
yeah, we have a GOATA
here's
guy,
it.
huh?
I don't
But
know
then
what's
I
going on.
progressed to actual running and jumping with good biomechanics. We can race any day of the week if you want to get embarrassed.
Okay.
I
I
work
don't
with
believe it.
many pro rugby players, and guess what? They don't get hurt in non-contact scenarios. Can you say the same? So, okay.
But wait,
Fine.
all right, yeah, you can do your thing, but I know Brandon and I both, while you were reading that, were like chomping at the bit. I also want to touch on, let's just touch briefly from a rugby specific standpoint. A lot of rugby players don't get non-contact injuries, and I don't know this, but I think it's reasonable to think that they don't get as much non-contact injuries as, say, football players because the training is different and their overall endurance is way higher. That's why you don't see it as much. Rugby has a lot of contact-driven injuries like tears and sprains, but you don't see a lot of the lower body injuries that football does because football trains for short, aggressive bursts. They need to be as explosive as possible in a short period of time, a lot of stopping and going. Rugby players, even the training, like when I had rugby practice, it was 2 sessions a day. Your overall volume on the GPS is like close to 12, 13 miles. Like, you're running so much that your condition, to Brandon's point about improving overall conditioning capacity, is through the roof. It's a different sport, but that conditioning capacity is so high that, yeah, you're not going to see like as many Achilles snaps or other
Well, they
types of
also
tweaks and
play
tears.
rugby on grass. That affects
Always grass. Yep.
that affects non-contact injuries. Like it's more common to get a non-contact injury on.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing that I wanted to, sorry,
Let's
I'm
hear
stealing
FedEx
your
Speedy.
rant, but you got me fired up, and I never like read this stuff, so let me cook for a second. You want to talk about duck foot? You want to talk about duck foot? Watch the performance metrics from USA Bobsled. You will see the best athletes. You will see the best athletes
Look at Chuck,
in the
dude.
entire country that will absolutely smoke any NFL player in performance-driven metrics with their feet like this, okay? So don't talk to me about duck foot, because I can tell you right now the amount of athletes that I have watched, and I've gone back and watched film from football when I was at Syracuse. I've watched rugby film. Some of the best athletes that I have ever met or seen in my entire life will have their toes pointed to the side. The best athletes are the best compensators, and it is absolutely ridiculous to take an athlete that moves extremely well, and maybe it's biomechanically inefficient, and change the way they move based on a preconceived notion about what is optimal and what is best, because I have seen firsthand that that is not true. And you can try to provide all of the research that you want, but the argument from a guy who's never competed at the top of the top and doesn't have the awareness that there are so many athletes with their toes pointed out to perform at an extremely impossibly high level, like, that's silly. That's absolutely silly, and I love it because it blows all those traditional arguments up in their face. Like we were saying, you're going to have friggin' Scoots cooking you, dude, and his toes are going to be pointed to either side of the track. Like, pipe down.
I agree. I don't understand where the GOATA stands came from. Like,
Can someone explain to me GOATA? I don't even know what it is.
It's okay. From my understanding, it stands for greatest of all time, like movements, like athletes. And they're trying to say that the best athletes, like, and they always use Michael Jordan as an example, move with straight feet and their heel never collapses. And that's like the thing. And they're like, they need straight feet. Like, this guy gets hurt. Like Jason Tatum, he tore his Achilles because he doesn't have straight feet and his heel collapsed when he put his foot down.
So
like,
I'm gonna do,
or like
something.
the Christian McCaffrey video that I
Right,
made
yeah,
about Christian McCaffrey getting hurt, and that was GOATA. That was like, you wonder why he's always hurt, and they pointed to his foot doing a drill with Brian
It's not the 50
Kula.
touches a game in the NFL.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, the
Over
guy's
10
got
years.
the most all-purpose yards in the NFL, like every fucking year.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's hurt. Like, people don't look at it like that, and it's just, I don't understand the.
I got you, Coach.
I don't.
No, I got you, Coach. I'm curious if that argument's true, right? We don't know everything. We could be wrong. I don't really buy that, but I'm willing to look at something. So the best athlete that I've ever seen in my years of playing sports, like face-to-face on, like, seen, I would say is Lamar Jackson. He played Louisville, Syracuse versus Louisville. He absolutely torched Syracuse. He just plays on a different level. Like, I am very much like, I don't like giving people accolades, especially if I'm competing at that same level. Like, I always say, yeah, he's not that good. Like, you know, all of our teammates in bobsled, I'm like, yeah, I could probably beat him in a race. Like, I don't like doing that. That's the natural competitor in me. This is one of the and when someone kind of wows me, I'll be the first to admit it. Lamar Jackson, one of the best athletes that I've ever seen, ever. I think he's going to go down in history as one of the greatest athletes of all time, bar any sport. I'm just going to watch some Lamar Jackson season highlights on YouTube, and I'm going to look at his feet, because I'd be willing to bet that his feet, I've never looked at this before. I'm willing to bet that his feet point out and he moves very strangely. So we're going to see. And I'm willing to bet he doesn't go the way that, however GOATA says it. You can send me more stuff on GOATA. I've never really digested what that is. So let's see.
GOATA enjoys clickbait.
So, I mean, they could just be there's no such thing as bad publicity. They could just be doing it for their TV channel. These are all throws.
Like,
I need like some runs. But anyway, you guys can talk while I'm looking at this.
that's it. Like, that was the rage baits in the comments, and I'm
They've
like,
got a big group chat, all the GOATA people, where they just throw Troy's content in there anytime that it pops up.
You think so?
and they're like, go comment on this guy's stuff. Let him know that people are doing things out of alignment. I just don't understand it. When you accelerate, the best way to accelerate, your toes are going to point out. Like
It's
that.
very common in power-based athletes, for sure.
It's extremely common.
I'd
like,
say it's the
and
norm, almost, yeah.
I just don't understand. And they're trying to say, like, GOATA always hops in when someone gets hurt, and they like to blame the reason they got hurt on because of their feet and their foot placement. Like Christian McCaffrey, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, they'll hop in and they'll be like, oh, look at his foot. That's why he's hurt. And it's like,
Well,
okay, so
yeah.
you mean to tell me that because of you, your GOATA, your system, whatever you say, whatever you do, whatever you make your athletes do, they never get hurt because of that? Like, what do they play golf? Like, I don't like.
Right. I mean, do you remember like when Dre Greenlaw like tore his
Brandon, I have a
Achilles,
good-
like, celebrating, and all these people
Yeah.
tried to draw these like insane conclusions from it? Like, is it
I have a
okay?
good
You know, what
clip.
is it? The accumulation of he's been in the NFL for 7 years, and he's just, you know what I mean? He's played 20 games this year because it's in the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know. It's
When we go
people
back to
always
this-
take advantage of it. Go ahead, Otto.
When we go back to this, I have a good clip for you to throw in here of Lamar Jackson running that I think will be pretty funny. I'll find some other athletes. But to play devil's advocate on this just a little bit, because I think, one, they are just clickbaiting. No such thing as bad publicity. They're stirring up controversy. 2, it's a sales tactic to dwell on pain and fear. And it's really easy to criticize someone when they're down, especially an athlete when they get hurt with their body. 3, there is some truth to strengthening the foot because it's one of the most complicated
with
body
that.
parts.
We do foot strengthening training. Like,
Right,
I agree
right.
with that.
Yeah. So, but I think that's where it's not glamorous. Like, I mean, we don't post a bunch of like foot exercises because like it's kind of boring. We can throw up
Right.
a reel, but there's a lot of stuff. Again, people try to make the whole picture out of what they see through that one TV channel or that one lens, and that's not reality. But it's pretty common, it seems to me, in the sports performance world, is for people to take a piece of truth, right? So like, I would think training the foot, which is not necessarily a priority with athletic training all the time, and doing more exercise to strengthen it. It's one of the most complex parts of the body. I know this because Liz Frank fracture. So like, I spent a lot of time looking into this, and this was one of my prompts before. An aha moment for me was looking into that. Foot training, lower body training, all that stuff, very beneficial for athletes. Usually very undertrained because of the sneakers and the way people kind of walk around all the time. So it is very undertrained, and it's a very low-hanging fruit to get a lot of positive feedback. I don't think it's fair to say, what was it, Christian McCaffrey? I'm sure that he trains his feet. I am almost positive that he spends a ton of time doing mobility work and other ankle and foot exercises. He's paid millions of dollars to stay on his feet, keep his feet healthy, and run all the time with absurd amounts of force. So that's silly. 2, this happens with everything. You take a low-hanging fruit, like something like, jumps, plyometrics. Plyometrics work. Yeah, awesome. Very good, especially if someone hasn't been doing plyometrics. But then taking it and saying, that's the only training that you need. Or, this type of training that works, where maybe you have an athlete. I could use myself as an example. I stopped lifting super, super heavy to focus on speed work because that was where the lower hanging fruit was for me personally in terms of trying to improve my overall metrics. And it worked. But to take that own experience that I had with my training and then say, you don't need to lift heavy. It's absolutely silly. I got this progress because of this. And if you look at all this research, you don't need to lift heavy. Well, again, misinformation. And I think it's tough because you can't get an exact booklet or instruction manual of performance training because every athlete is different and there's so many different philosophies with training. That's one of the things that Troy and I talk a lot about with our training is we try not to stick. We have like our notions and we are always looking at them, but anytime something kind of seems like it would be beneficial, or some that's low-hanging fruit. Training the feet is one. Various positions in terms of stability and playing around with load. They're all different types of things you can implement that may be beneficial, but I think what people get into is they take one very small example or something that's very true, like, squatting is good for you, or evidence that squatting is bad for you. And then they'll build their entire brand and identity around that one statement that has a lot of support. And then they'll just be a martyr they'll use every hurt athlete as a martyr to support their claim, especially if it's a high profile one. And that's not beneficial. It spreads a lot of negativity, misinformation, and fear, because then you get people that are crippled with, anxiety and nervousness about, am I doing the right thing? What's the right thing? I'm getting all this, conflicting information about what the best way to train is and how I'm going to get hurt if I'm not doing this thing. And I think that's a bit predatory and kind of not a cool way to teach and spread information
with that.
about sports performance, because you're essentially preying on inexperienced athletes or people that don't have a good base of knowledge, and you're basically trying to scare them into consuming your product or service. Where, I guess there's a little bit of that. There are valid fears, right? Like we'll tell the guys, if you don't get your weight up or you don't take this lift seriously, like, you're going to get your ass kicked. You're going to get flattened on the field. I think that's a valid feel. But saying because you're not doing this exercise, you're just waiting to get hurt. You're just waiting to tear your Achilles, especially with soft tissue injuries, like, that doesn't help anyone, because there is also a psychological component where if you make an athlete or athletes nervous about something because they're not doing something, anxiety can increase your risk of non-contact injuries by quite a bit. And that's something that's a very bad way. It's a negative way. I shouldn't say bad. It's a very negative way to go about promoting your own philosophy and ideology with that kind of fear-mongering tactic, and it doesn't really help coaches or athletes kind of further provide better service to athletes. So I don't know much about them, but based on what has just been
I
shared
don't know
with
a
me on
ton
this
either,
podcast, those are my initial thoughts on it. Maybe we'll come back and revisit it, but thumbs
I'll
down
look
from
into it.
Coach Otto.
Yeah, I'll look into it, but I don't know much about it either. And what I've seen so far, it's like a lot of trolling. So
Wow. So maybe it's just views and clicks, and it's just another.
No, but they have a cult-like following, which they've gained. Like, they have people who aren't affiliated with, like, the brand commenting on my stuff and getting in arguments with people on my posts about GOATA and Duckfoot and stuff like that. And like, Toes pointed out, like, random people who aren't affiliated with GOATA doing that. Like, they have a cult-like following. And like, Tyler Roberts commented on the last post, like the Christian McCaffrey post, like, geez, I can't believe there's this many people who actually are cult-like following to this shit. Like, this is crazy.
Tyler Roberts is a guy. We should have him on the podcast. He'd be a good guy to have on.
Yeah.
Because I've never met, maybe briefly, I'd be interested to chat with him.
He's going down the he's getting his doctor of physical therapy too. Like, also like Rayner.
With Rayner?
He's doing it he's doing it at Tufts.
Good for him. Yeah, we'll definitely have him on then. I wonder if he bumps into Ben at all, or maybe we can connect the two or something. I don't know. But yeah, so what I was going to say to that is all these people, one, cult-like following, they're building a business and a brand. Awesome. Same thing that CrossFit did. Good for them. Like, I hope you make a bunch of money and you're super successful. And granted, movement is better than sedentary lifestyle. So in the grand scheme of things, sick. Awesome. Great for you. My points still stand about it's a really negative way to promote something. My other point is all these people that are commenting, are they practicers? Are they practicing good athletes, Coach?
Say it again. I'm reading.
Are all the comments practicing good athletes, as we would identify an athlete who's good? Like, are they?
This guy is not even an athlete. This guy is simply an athletic trainer. He's never even been an athlete. Yeah.
So then that answers my next question. Is that's a totally different like creation of a brand and community, right? Because that's just, and that actually very well might be in their marketing plan. Like, their whole campaign and the way they do things is to seek out. I mean, that's the way That's the way like fringe religion and cults get started too, right? Like you have believers, you have your certain demographic who are more susceptible to believe in your ideology, and then chastise everyone that doesn't line up with your beliefs. So that very well might be how they do their thing. But back to my that's a whole human psychology deal. But if you have a lot of people who are commenting supporting it, and you don't have a lot of people again that align with what you want to be and similar to how you are, then I would highly recommend you take whatever they say with a grain of salt. Right? If you're trying to do something, if you're an athlete and you have all this anxiety about all this misinformation or conflicting information, it's not all misinformation. There's a lot of good pieces. I can even see some good from that GOATA philosophy of training
Right.
the foot, which is previously an undertrained kind of area of the body for athletes. There is some good in that. But if you're having all this conflicting information, you're trying to make sense of it as an athlete, well, again, try to find athletes that are similar to you, as close as you can get. Don't just pick one person and hyperfixate on them, but try to get information from athletes similar to you, whether that be background, build, size, career, all these different things, and see what they have done for success, right? Where do those guys train? How do they train? What worked for them, right? I think that's one strong part of our gym is we try to get guys with kind of a similar mindset, similar area demographic. They're all from the same area. It's in Massachusetts, it's really small. If you go to a high school, all the high schools are within 30, 45 minutes. So everyone's lives can be
Intertwined.
connected. Yeah, they're intertwined. They play against each other. It's similar. You all know the same areas. And it's the same mindset and the same kind of outlook where you're an under-recruited, you don't have a big spotlight on you in football in Massachusetts, so everyone's trying to kind of prove theirself and write their story or use football that is not as competitive around here to get them into a better academic school or, whatever their dream is. But it's a way for them to kind of see what's worked for guys like them from their area that have solved the problem that they're trying to solve. Right? And that's really what the benefit of good communities and good coaches is they've ideally been in similar situations to you or have had experience with athletes similar to what you're going through and have gone in and critically, sat, self-reflected and analyzed what has worked, what hasn't, and what's your highest probability for success in terms of what you should be doing. So
I like
that would be
that.
my advice.
This isn't insightful
I've had a few very long rants on this
No,
podcast.
it's good.
I've done most of the talking, but
This isn't insightful at all, but I do like that Troy's Christian McCaffrey post. You know how it like shows you the people that liked it? There's a ton of people that I know personally, like from my sphere, that liked it. So I like that there's some crossover action going. But this comment cracked me up. The first one with the dudes, very respectfully, is arguing with Troy. Troy puts out this very, thorough answer. And then there's this guy, Anderson Strength and Fitness. He just responds, GOATA is ass cheeks.
there you go.
Yeah.
Also,
I don't know.
I
I don't have a definitive opinion on it. Like, I haven't looked, you know what I mean? I give everything a fair shot, so I haven't looked into this philosophy at all. I'd have to spend a few hours deep diving into it. Like I said, from what I've seen a lot of trolling, a lot of things out of context. That's why I'm kind of initially aggressive. And like the people, like everyone's pointed out, like they're citing Christian McCaffrey, who's like, he's been in the NFL for almost a decade. He's a bell cow. Like, you know what I mean? How many touches? He probably gets like 40, 50 touches a game.
He was one of the leading players.
And if you watch him in college, he got even more touches in college. He ran the Stanford's offense like single-handedly. So this guy has 15 years of very, very high-level football, not to mention, Pop Warner in high school and accumulating as well. But like, the guy has 25 years of of sporting background.
He's like first in all-purpose yards every year, like receiving and rushing.
And I question, like, when people question his durability, when you look at the amount of touches he gets, and you look at, like, honestly, like, even when you look at some of the play calls where he's just constantly running up the middle for, like, 3-yard gains, like, the amount of contact that he's taken is, I don't know. And he's played the majority of the season most years. I don't know why he's kind of become, like, I don't know. They use him as, like, the premier example of, like, unreliability, which I think is just unfair, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge sports follower, but is that a thing around him?
You see a lot of when McCaffrey gets hurt.
Trainers, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you see a lot of fringe trainers be like, this guy's not durable at all.
Yeah,
That's like, look what he's doing.
Yeah, we're going to move on because that's, again, predatory, negative, not a good habit of taking athletes when they get hurt and then using that to promote your own brand or training philosophy, because that is silly. And as we've touched on before, if you have a career in sports or in that world, you ought to know or prepare yourself that athletes get hurt, even if it's non-contact sports. Do you know any track athletes in your career that have been injury-free? No, nobody hits you in track. Okay, lo and behold, and I don't want to hear any, it's silly for any coach to say, well, that's because this programming that they were running at X, Y, and Z school was not optimal. No, there's too many variables to account for. Guys get hurt all the time, and the best thing you can do is arm yourself with strategies, both mentally and physically, to be able to withstand injuries, come back from injuries, and learn from injuries. This is like that's what happened with when I got the Liz Frank fracture in my foot. That's where my knowledge of foot training came from, because it was really upsetting to me, and it was a potentially, career-ending injury. So I really had to do a deep dive into the foot strengthening. How does it influence like impact and all
nobody's
the
saying that
biomechanics
bad
of how that
training
works.
doesn't contribute to it. Like, I know that that doesn't need to be said, but let's just say it just in case someone hears that. Like,
Well, there's two ends of the
bad
spectrum.
training. Right.
There's two ends of the spectrum. There is like criticizing, doing generally the right things at a very high level and saying that's why this athlete got hurt. And then there's also trying to get really bad training and bad practices out of the field. And you'll never completely solve it, but it's more just kind of sifting through the BS and finding what works for you. Again, finding what works for you is huge, and not getting too like paranoid about all the different things. Because, Coach, I think you made a reel about this previously, or you just say it all the time, but one huge detriment to athletes is program hopping. So if you have all this different information, you're getting anxiety about what to do, and you try something for 3 weeks or 2 weeks and then try something else for 2 weeks, you're never going to even know what works. Even if the stuff you're trying might be what you need, you'll never know what's good or what works for you, because you've never given it time to work out, because it's always the shiny new method of training that you try to do, and you never have any lasting results. Coach, you were chuckling. Were you reading more comments or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just rage baiting this guy so hard. I'm just so good at it.
Christian would argue that you're not.
Christian would love to get in on this. Like, this guy is just so mad right now. He is mad.
Send the screenshots to Christian and see if he wants to chime in.
I told him, I was just like, hey man, like, you got it. Good job, dude. Like, you got it, King. And he's like, I called him a fear mongerer, and then he just started going crazy. And I responded with, why you mad? And with the laughing face emoji. And then he pulls up my college statistics and was like, you shouldn't be talking like you weren't even good at a small D1 school. And I'm like, why are you mad?
You should do Tyler's go-to and be like, smells like copium to me.
It smells like copium. Yeah, because I told him, like, I said, hey, it's all right, dude. Like, you never competed at a high level. And he's like, you literally had 20 tackles at a small D1 school. Yeah, I did.
Well, guess what? I don't know if either of us have ever claimed to be the best football players ever.
Yeah.
We help when we can. We can provide a lot of value to our college athletes with football to a degree, but we also don't try to criticize, how Bill Belichick runs his offense. Crazy, right? It's crazy to think that. That's why we do what we do. Training, metrics, that's what we're good at.
He's like, you're at a small D1 school, you barely even cracked 20 tackles. One, not sure. I had 46 total tackles, and I started 16 games in my career at Merrimack, and then when I went to UMass, I played fullback, so where am I going to get tackles from at fullback? That wouldn't make sense, right? That's like blocking people.
On an interception.
Yeah, right? Like, or when I'm back there at kick return, I'm blocking people, like, so just
that's funny.
Yeah.
Classic. This was good.
Mad.
I apologize. It doesn't matter. It's just it's the Wojak meme with like the tears and the red eyes. Like, this guy wasn't even good. whatever. Let them cry. Let them cry. Stay focused and find what works for you. I guess that would be the advice. I apologize, guys. I took up probably most of the time on this podcast.
I don't know.
You
That's
guys got
you probably talked less than usual. I think you took up more time because I spoke a little bit more than I normally speak, and I think Troy spoke a little bit less than he normally speaks. But you spoke about about maybe less than you normally do, honestly.
well, sick.
Thought it was good. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
got
good.
distracted towards the end there. I was just
Hey, I got
going
a
back and
message
forth
for
with this
everyone
guy.
else out there though. You can rage bait, and I'm sure it's the same with Troy. I'm just speaking from experience, Otto. You can rage bait Otto, but you probably won't win. Like you can initiate it as like a premier
Don't-
instigator. You can rage bait
Otto and I
Otto,
have
but
had quite
it's tough
the
to come out on top.
Troy's found the. I'm not gonna give the secret answer. Maybe after the recording, I'll tell you. But Troy might be one of the only people who has figured out the key to like it, because I'll explain after. But I remember that was one of my first interaction with Brandon. Brandon prided himself on being like the shit talker of the OPTC, and then I I pull up and we get into some heated conversation. And then Brandon's like, I've never really met anyone that can give it back like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
what to
I kind of
say. Like,
I
you
definitely
got me.
calmed down the amount of instigation I did because I'm like, this is tough. This is like,
No,
yeah.
I'm a very calm, peaceful person and don't rage
I am
bait
now
me.
too. I don't know if that contributed to it.
All right. I think this is a great podcast. Takeaways. You can get your own takeaways from the podcast itself, whatever was valuable. Write in, send us emails, send us texts, DM us with topics you like us to cover. And or just let us know what you like and what you don't like, and we'll keep season 2 going. We got some guests lined up. Hopefully we'll get on. I like kind of going one off, one on. That's kind of good. And yeah, dream big, work hard, get good or get out, keep pushing. We have too many taglines now. I'll have to narrow it down. But yeah, have a great day. Do your push-ups.
hell yeah.